Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series.
Because creators are businesses.
What we do is not simple.
Give, the fans everything that they deserve.
Being creative
is like doing a 5,000 piece puzzle.
is something that you can learn and do over and over again.
Always be as authentic as I can be.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am thrilled today to have Miss Payton Chang here with me. She's the senior manager of content and marketing at Fanatics, but she's also a former athlete. She's won 2 national championships on the court at Stanford and Northwestern. And so I am so excited to have her here with me. Payton, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me today. Excited to be here.
Yeah. You've had this really unique situation and unique dual experience of being a high level athlete and now being in this marketing position where you've worked with, Miami Dolphins and Hard Rock, and now you're sitting at Fanatics. How has your time as a student athlete at Stanford and Northwestern influenced your approach to sports marketing today?
It's helped so much. I mean, as a former student athlete, I think I just have patience for athletes. They're always just so busy with their practices and training and just all that sort of stuff. And so all of this media stuff that we do as, a team or as a brand, that's extra. And they're obviously getting paid to do it. It's part of their job, but just be able to be flexible, knowing that, they might be going through an injury or they might be super tired and there might be something going personal at home. And so just having that grace and patience for them where they might not want to do as much media that day or might not want to be on camera, just kind of being able to adjust on the go. I think that's been super important to me in my sports marketing career, as we, want to do these, certain marketing things that are extra for us. But yeah, being able to just be able to adjust on the go. I think just being a student athlete and knowing what they're kind of going through, obviously not at the professional level, but at a collegiate level and a super high level playing Division I sports. I think that's been super helpful. And just time management, being able to balance so many certain things at once. I think that's part of sports marketing. You're dealing with, at least at Fanatics, we're dealing with so many different campaigns and different sports at once. And I think my previous experience as a student athlete has really helped now in my sports marketing career.
And you were a volleyball player. That was your sport. I grew up playing volleyball. It was my
absolute fun.
Favorite. Yeah, I think it's one of the best sports to play for it or to watch for women's too. I think it's the coolest. Winning 2 NCAA national championships, that's no small feat. That's not a thing to overlook at all. What lessons did you take from those high pressure moments that you now apply or can now apply to your career?
I think teamwork, that's been one of the most important things, in strong communication. You're not going to get to the top by just yourself. You got to really rely on your teammates. Obviously, you're going to have your stars and you're going to have your people who are definitely, the leaders of the pack, but every single person on the team is important when you want to reach your goals. And I think that's something I've been able to take from the court into the workplace is just strong communication, teamwork, just all of that team building. I think that's been super important and the biggest lessons that I've taken.
Now, when you made that transition to, working in sports after you graduated, was there ever a moment for you of okay, yeah, this is where I was supposed to be. This is where I'm meant to be in doing this work?
For sure. It's so funny because when I was in college or just even in high school, all the coaches like, oh, look, what do you want to do after you graduate when you're done? And I just really had no idea. And so when I was at Stanford, I interned with that department, SATs, communications. People thought I'd be really good at comms. And then so I kind of helped out with all of that. And that was when social media really had just started. I played from 2015 to 2019. And that was when there started being, internships and social media jobs. And I was like, oh, maybe I could actually do this after college. And so when I was at Stanford and at Northwestern, any opportunity that they gave me, do you want to take over the Instagram story for NCAA volleyball or Pac-12, RIP Pac-12, Stanford? But just any of those opportunities, I think that kind of gave me a little background and I was able to be super creative and do whatever I want. And I think that kind of gave me the first start at what a career in social media could look like. Yeah. And obviously it's so different when you're really working in social media full time, but that just gave me an idea of what it could look like. And so I'm really grateful for all those types of experiences, getting those fundamentals of copywriting, building a content calendar in an off season. That's really helped me throughout my entire social media career.
And Peyton, I got to tell you how I became familiar with you outside of, the crazy world of LinkedIn is your TikTok. I came and was scrolling on TikTok and doing the doom scrolling that we all at some point do, and came upon your profile and the daily vlogs in a sense that you do on there. And I absolutely loved how you gave people a glimpse into, I think when I first started, you were still with Miami Dolphins and at Hard Rock. So it was when you were still doing that stuff. But that's how I came to know you and the incredible work that you were doing.
Oh, thank you. It's so hard to keep up with TikTok. I mean, I feel like I completely just don't even post on Instagram or Twitter anymore. But TikTok's been kind of a fun little outlet when I do have time to post. Obviously, my actual posting on Fanatics socials, that comes first. But
Yes.
any single time I'm on a trip and able to kind of keep up and just show people kind of behind the scenes life of what it's like working in sports, I think that's super cool to get access to. I mean, I wish I had did TikTok back in college and I didn't even play in the NIL era, but like, shoot, like I could have made some money off of all of that. So at least now it's just more of a creative outlet for me to kind of do something different. We don't have a TikTok for our memorabilia side at Fanatics. So it's been kind of fun to be able to make some TikToks on the side and just show people what I'm doing daily.
Love that. I love it. I think when you give people a glimpse into that kind of daily life, especially in sports and women in sports, like if I could, my whole entire feed would just be women in sports because I think there's so many different perspectives and things that everybody's doing, but it's so cool to be able to just show what you are doing. It's the little things that, some people might not even think that you're doing every single day.
For sure. And it's one of those things where it's like we're on the road so much. So it's kind of cool to just show, what we're doing with all the different sports and different leagues, or even just the typical office life, which is a little boring at times. But then also just showing people that, you can have balance. You can hang out with your friends. You can just explore different cities. And that's something I really try to do when I'm on the road is just get into a kind of routine, whether it's, going exploring different coffee shops or exploring whatever the town has to see in the restaurants. I think that's been one of my favorite things, being able to just, being able to have balance both with the work side and then when you're on work trips, hanging out with your coworkers and that sort of stuff.
Now, with your career spanning, different areas of sports marketing from social media strategy to the influencer side and the athlete branding, what has been the biggest shift you've seen in how athletes and brands connect with fans?
Yeah, I think social media has really helped over the years. It's been one of those things where, the athletes have been able to connect with these fans like no other before. And, we're really trying to, there's been a lot of athletes who do want to grow their social media. There's a few that are just like, I hate social media. I only do it for, if I have to post for a brand thing. But there's other athletes that are just like, I really just don't know what to do, but I want to be able to grow my platform, be able to connect with fans. And then you just get more opportunities that way with more brand deals, as you continue to keep on posting. And so I also think that the collab feature on Instagram has been absolutely massive because we take the content, we edit it. All we do is just send you a collab and you have to accept. And then fans get to see, a day in the life of, for example, Cooper DeJean at the Philly show. So that's one of those things where we are making the content for you and all you have to do is accept or to share to your story. And so I think that's been a really cool thing is be able to provide athletes the content and then they just kind of post from there. And it's really up to the athlete how much they do want to post, but the fans really want to see it and be able to feel like they're connecting with their favorite athletes off the field, off the court.
Yep, 100% agree. I think it's one of those things that I've talked about it so much with people. When we think of an athlete, we think of these like higher gods. But when we see them and we get to interact with them in any sort of way, it kind of brings us all to an even level playing field that we're like, they're just like us kind of situation.
Exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
really nice to see.
For sure. And I think that's been one of the things that being a former athlete has really helped my career is that when you're in this sort of role, I mean, I've worked with some of the biggest names, Tom Brady, Lewis Hamilton, all these people. And at the end of the day, they're just normal people, but they're really good at what they do for a living. They're just really good at sports. So that's just one of the things. But they're trying to do a job. And so we're just trying to be, kind of on the outsides. Like I think a lot of my old bosses just like, we're just like fly on the walls, just trying to create content and just show people behind the scenes. And so we're not, bothering them for extra things. And then we're, allowing our influencers and content creators who are also just
Yeah.
general people at the end of the day do their job and giving them access to talent. So that's been a really fun thing for me to kind of combine all of those things, giving, talent or giving our Fanatics brand, the access to these, super athletes and people's favorite, people to follow.
And I want to talk about you do on the side, you do stuff with Lifetime Cardinal, which is kind of helping lead athletes through this whole crazy NIL world. How do you see like NIL deals have just been transforming? How do you kind of see this playing out in this massive landscape?
For sure. The Lifetime Cardinal thing has been super cool. I mean, I didn't go to Stanford in the NIL era, and Stanford's been in a very unique situation where, they were a little bit behind the whole NIL era, kind of started a couple years later, just with, going to Stanford, it's very different than a lot of different schools. They want to make sure that the normal students, feel the same way as the student athletes. And that's kind of why it took a long time. There's been administration changes and all of that. But Lifetime Cardinal is doing something very different compared to the other NL collectives. We're obviously paying the athletes, but they have to do, community service things, which you're already going to be doing community service, but we're really connecting them to the communities.
Yeah.
I was just on campus a couple weeks ago doing a photo shoot with the athletes. And so just doing some fun content, that their normal pages on social media, like they're not doing just because, some of these college athletic programs don't have the bandwidth and the many people, social media people as some of the SEC schools have, for example. And so just kind of making our Lifetime Cardinal brand a little bit different than others. We work with Brendan Scarlett, who is actually a former Stanford football player. He played in the NFL. He just retired this past year. So there's a lot of alums who are, putting efforts into this organization, and it's been really awesome. We have mentoring opportunities for the kids, connecting them with internships, alumni networking events. So it's been a really unique way for me to kind of give back, but also use my knowledge in social media, and kind of tying it all together. So it's been really cool.
It's crazy how in just a few short years, like something like this has just blown up college sports just in general, just in terms of one, the opportunities, but you've seen so much movement happening around college sports that it's hard to keep track of where everybody is at
For
every
sure.
moment.
Yeah, and with all, Stanford being the ACC now, which is fun because, volleyball team, they were playing Miami last year. The football team will be playing in Miami, so getting to see them, but it is just so different. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing all of that travel. We did a lot, the beginning of the year because we're quarter system, so we had that opportunity to kind of go to the East Coast or Midwest and do just different travel experiences playing at different, big schools and everything. But yeah, it's the whole college landscape is just so different now. So couldn't imagine playing in it.
It's so crazy. And I do want to hit on the Fanatics side of what you've been doing, and just Fanatics is grown massively. It used to be just this one place where it was like you can go and get, hats and sweatshirts and every team possible. But now it's turned into kind of this bigger thing that you and I were talking about beforehand of being part of these massive events, and how is Fanatics named just around sports. But I do want to just ask you, like, how do you see companies like Fanatics shaping the future of engagement in sports?
It's been awesome. I think that was one of the things in my interview process that really did stand out to me is that Fanatics sees themselves as the sports entertainment, brand. And I think something like Fanatics Fest, which started last year, and we'll have our second one at the Javits Center, June 20th to 22nd. A little plug for that.
Love it.
Whoever's in New York City at the time. It's basically Comic Con for sports, and it's bringing all the leagues together. And that was something that Michael Rubin really wanted to do. He's like, we don't have this for sports. Like, we need this for sports. And so being able to, I was at MLB All-Star, I was at NHL All-Star and their fan fairs, and they basically brought a miniature version of that to Fanatics Fest, and we're bringing in this year, it being in June, bringing, all the current NFL talent, CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams, Jamar Chase, all these top names to the event. And fans get to take photos, they get to get autographs from them. And so really getting to connect with their favorite athletes. And we'll do these stunts with our Fanatics exclusive. So, you'll see Kevin Durant and Ant Edwards, they're at the NBA activation playing hoops with kids, and, fans are all so close to them. It's not like any other event really. And so it's been really cool where you get to go to a panel with Tom Brady and Stephen A. Smith and just getting to hear for them. And that's open to anyone who has a GA ticket. So I think it's been one of those really unique things, and being able to connect, both sports, entertainment. Like they had Travis Scott do a panel and he just did a pop-up concert live at Fanatics Fest. And so I think that's been really unique. And then also with the top side, Fanatics acquired Topps a couple years ago, and just seeing how much the trading card business has just boomed over the years, in both entertainment and even internationally. They have deals with like F1, tennis for the tours. Premier League is something they got recently, and then they're really also getting into the entertainment business. So Star Wars, Marvel, all of these things, and then live breaking has become a big thing with Fanatics Live. So there are just so many different avenues that Fanatics has got into. Betting and gaming has been kind of something that they've been really growing as well. So it's not live in Florida, but it's live in 30 different states, and I think it's one of those really unique things. When you go to a game, they really want Fanatics to be kind of the center. So Fanatics runs all these in-venue retail stores. Near a hockey game, the players are wearing Fanatics jerseys now. You can bet live on the Fanatics app. You can get your tickets through Fanatics app as well. They're kind of doing some testing with Ticketmaster through all of that sort of stuff. We sell a lot of memorabilia at, Rangers games, Yankees games, Knicks games. And so it's one of those things where we're continuing to grow, and Fanatics, will be the, center of the sports universe. And so it's one of those things where it's like, at least on a social side, for the branding has been really unique because, people go to ESPN, they go to Bleacher Report for all their sports news and sports content, but Fanatics is really kind of trying to become, like one of those brands where we're giving access to these, athletes to, the fans through social media and just off the field, off the court type of content, getting to know them, fun questions, will they sign it type of content, or signing funny things. And then we're doing giveaways with those items. So it's been really cool to kind of see the brand grow. We've had a lot of new people. I mean, I've only been there for a year and a half, but just over the years, kind of seeing the brand shift from just your hats, what people think Fanatics is. And we still post about all of that. We kind of have to when there's a record broken, like Ovechkin, we had a big line drop, but we're also doing certain things like kind of showcasing behind the scenes.
I'm a Carolina Hurricanes fan, and so everywhere around our arena, it's Fanatics.
It's Fanatics branding.
Fanatics.
Yeah,
We just got Fanatics.
we love that.
So I love that. I'm like, you were talking about the hockey games. I'm like, yep, Fanatics. It's everywhere in my arena. So I see it every single home game that I'm at.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And any baseball stadium too. I see Fanatics everywhere. And, I got to go to the Stanley Cup finals last year being in Florida. And, we did a whole piece on the game used ice, which people are very invested in. We have melted ice that we put into these crystal pucks or little crystal Stanley Cups. And that's one of our really cool inventions that we have made on the authentic side. So, yeah.
It's so funny because it's these so many different avenues, but it's the things that when you don't think about it, like these big events that you go to, but you come back and you remember, you're like, yeah, I have a Fanatic, like I have a hat from the NHL All-Star that has Fanatics on the side. So it's one of those things that it may not be one of those like you remember it at the time, but it's like Fanatics is part of all of these journeys and all these things that as a sports fan, you might not think of 24/7.
Yeah. And our slogan that's, everywhere is, for the fan, by the fan. We have so many employees that are just sports fans, and we know exactly, what the consumer, what these sports fans want. And so that's been kind of a really cool thing at the end of the day. It is for the fan. When we're at these events, we are thinking of our fans and our customers first. And I think that's, super unique. We have people who complain about, customer service types of things or all that all the time. Baseball jerseys was a big thing last year that people did complain about. But, we take that feedback really into consideration. And, if someone has a messed up signature, piece of memorabilia, we'll fix it immediately. I do see all these comments on social, and, we really try to make it right for the fans at the end of the day.
And you were talking about it earlier, like, you've had these moments where you've gotten to be in a room with Tom Brady. You've gotten to be with, around Lewis Hamilton, which And I'm jealous because next weekend is a very big weekend in Miami. You got the Miami Grand
Yes.
Prix coming up, and I'm very excited. This Formula One has definitely grown, I think, in our region in the last few years. So it's definitely been one of those things that I'm very excited that this Grand Prix is coming up. But for you, has there been a behind the scenes story or just an interaction that has stood out to you in your time being in these environments?
Yeah, I think, those events like Formula One, Miami Grand Prix, one, I knew nothing about F1 when I took that job with the Dolphins. They were just like, yeah, we're having this thing called Formula One come to Miami for the very first time ever. And you're gonna be
Yep.
running the social account for it on top of the Dolphins and the Hard Rock Stadium stuff. And I was like, okay, time to watch Drive to Survive and learn all about it. And
Yes.
once you do, I just got absolutely hooked. It past couple of years been a little bit slower with Max continuing to win and being a little bit boring. But now, since Lando had won the Miami race last year, it's been great. It's hard to keep up with so many different sports,
Yes.
but I'm very excited for the race next week. I went as a fan last year, and then I worked the first two races, and just growing that social account was, something that I will always take with me, and just being one of, the biggest lessons that I have learned. I think it started at like 50,000 followers, a little bit less, and I was able to grow it to over 200,000. And so, something that I did take is that when you do have access to these drivers, really taking advantage of that time with them. We'll get 5, 10 minutes with them and being able to ask them many of my questions, or we were able to do a Dolphins combine, or just doing any type of jersey swaps, even having our Dolphins guys doing the pit stop challenges, but using that as, evergreen content throughout the year, because the race and the race week is, 3 to 5 days of the entire year. And the rest of the year, you're trying to fill up your content calendar and try to think of content. And so being able to have those assets when you had access to those drivers is super important. And so just taking advantage of time, because one, they are super busy. And so you want to be able to be quick and efficient and be ready to go when you do have that time with those athletes. So it was one of those really cool experiences, just because F1 is, it's international, and just the global reach your content is getting across everywhere was, that's a super unique opportunity. And just, I think F1 Miami does a really good job at bringing the city of Miami to the campus, because Hard Rock Stadium is not in, downtown. I mean, they are getting, people are making fun of it for that. Like, we have the fake marina and all of those boats that come in. But at the end of the day, that's what makes it super unique. I mean, they're driving around in Vegas around a fake Eiffel Tower and,
Yeah.
Caesar's Palace and all
Right.
that sort of stuff. So,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that, America and, I think all these Europeans are just so used to a very typical, Monaco and all those, circuits that they have. But we really try to make it unique and different. And the team that, I had hired underneath me, they've been doing a great job about continuing it and just making, very unique content with memes and trends, and kind of staying up to date compared to the other races, or even in the tennis world with Miami Open. Like, they're just so focused on the racing or the tennis, but we're able to kind of show different sides of the entire racing experience that fans are getting. So the food and all the different chefs and artist collabs that we were able to do, I think that's something really unique, and just showcasing the experience of why you should have F1 Miami or Miami Open on your bucket list.
I think Miami is one of those perfect places too, because it truly has, there's so much culture, there's so much just there to bring into all of these different sporting events. It's such a
Definitely.
great place to do it at.
It's one of those things where it's like, when I was looking for a job, I always knew I wanted to work in the NFL.
Right.
And I was like, I'm willing to, leave California. I obviously played in Chicago for 6 months, then COVID happened, but I did not love the cold weather, I will say. And so mine was one of those things where it's like, and that was one of the things in the interview process that I thought was really interesting. They never asked me about, the football side of stuff, like, who do you know on the team, blah, 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 all of that, those sorts of
Yeah.
questions. But it's like, why do you want to come to Miami? And I think I just thought the culture and just all the different aspects that the city had was really unique. So you have your art, you have your food, you have your entertainment. I think that was one of those things that was really cool. And you could really see that through Hard Rock Stadium, how much that they're really able to bring so many different things. They'll have soccer matches, FIFA World Cup is coming, all those
Yes.
different concerts. Miami Hurricanes, one of the top college football programs, play there too. So I'm very grateful for those experiences I had at the Dolphins. And, over 2.5 years later, I was like, I really am interested in kind of going on the brand side. And so Fanatics was the perfect next step kind of in my career.
I love that. Now, slight detour. When you're watching Drive to Survive, what do you have a team you're cheering for? Do you have a driver?
So I absolutely just fell in love with Daniel Ricciardo when I started watching it. Like my
Not.
favorite. Your first episode, he's the first person that you very much see. And it's funny because I think on the tennis side, Breakpoint, they really try to make Nick Kyrgios kind of that same type of guy, which I'm a big Rafa Nadal fan. So it's a little bit
Right.
different kind of seeing all of that sort of stuff. And Breakpoint's not happening anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, at least on the Drive to Survive side, I love Daniel Ricciardo. Just the story of him over the years. I feel bad for him how everything ended up ending up. But I did like McLaren a lot. I'm a big like Lewis Hamilton fan as well. I George Russell was actually the first driver that we did work with, and so became a fan of George Russell when he was at Williams, and then coming to Mercedes. So big fan of his as well. We worked a lot with Pierre Gasly, getting to know him over time. He just loved coming to visit Miami and working out at our Dolphins facility, and he was great to work with. So all of those drivers were so fun. There was no one that we ever had issues with. They were all so great. And just so happy to be in Miami and just doing like different fun things like football and meeting the Dolphins players. I think that was what made that race, super unique to them.
I constantly walk around now after watching that show, and whenever I see Pierre on screen, I just hear Daniel go, Pierre,
Thank Pierre Gasly. Yeah.
that's what I hear. I absolutely love him.
Mhm.
He's one of my favorites, and I agree with you. Like, I hated the Arrivederci. I was like, no, because that's just
Yeah.
bad, and that's gonna make me cry. I love McLaren is my
Same. I love Lando.
I,
Lando's just so
he's
cute
my
and one of my
boy. He is
crushes.
my boy.
Yeah.
It's like tearing me apart seeing how he's been lately. But I think
I
it's so funny
know.
what you were going back to. Like, it's so hard to keep up with sports right now. We're in Stanley Cup playoffs right now.
Exactly. It's just the best time for sports right now. We have,
So
Stanley
crazy.
Cup playoff game, NBA playoff game on every single day. It's absolutely wonderful. I love football. Like football is, my
Yes.
go-to, but NHL hockey's my whole entire family has been so into it since that was like ever the first event I ever worked as NHL All-Star. And we've just been following it since. And the Panthers winning last year's Stanley Cup. It's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like I'm a full season ticket member, so we were at both home games for games 1 and 2 for the Hurricanes.
Okay. Mhm.
So Sunday and well, it was Monday and Wednesday. Didn't have a voice coming into work. I'm like, sorry guys,
I
this
heard those games are absolutely insane.
it's but it's the greatest thing ever. I'm like, you walk in and you're like, you have goosebumps kind of situation,
Mhm.
like just how loud it gets in there.
There's nothing like Stanley Cup playoffs.
There's
Mhm.
nothing,
Yeah.
and it's the greatest. But it's so funny because I'm like, all right, I got hockey here, I got an F1 race this weekend. I'm like,
Yeah.
golf this weekend as well. Tennis
Mhm.
is on. I'm like, it's too much to keep track of
It
sometimes.
is a lot. Yeah. I freelanced for TGL this past year in the inaugural season, and that was a really unique opportunity for me too. Just I never worked in golf and my
Yeah,
family has always followed golf. And so it was one of those really cool things. It's was one of the only places you could really see Tiger Woods play at this point, but just seeing the technology and just inaugural season, just how many people, how many eyes were on it. And the players who did play in it did have been playing so well in the current PGA season. Rory winning the Masters,
yeah,
even though Boston Common never won a single match this year in TGL, that was pretty funny. But yeah, just getting to meet a lot of different people, golf creators, influencers. It was local in Palm Beach, so that was a really unique opportunity for me as well. So lots of different sports I've
yeah.
covered over the years.
Yes. What I love about the TGL, because I think it was such a incredibly creative idea that Tiger, conjured up with that. But what I loved once again and what we've been talking about was when you put them in these kinds of scenarios, like we see them on the golf course, they're very serious. They're, trying to make their way. You see personality. You see
Yeah.
more of
The
them.
mic'd up stuff was something that we really try to take advantage of. And it's like, what can we do different,
Yeah.
on social media, showing up these mic'd up moments, showing these guys really have fun and just laughing and having a good time. They're currently in the PGA Tour, like playing, all the way at Waste Management, Arizona, then traveling the very next day. Or, Rory had won Pebble Beach and then, had to come over to Palm Beach the next day, fly overnight. But these guys are having so much fun out there. And it's just different. Everyone's like, oh, it's similar to golf. It's so different. But the actual arena, it only seats 1,500 people, and you're so close to these golfers and, the top players in the entire world. So it was a really unique thing to be
Yeah.
able to do this past year.
It was to the point, though, social stuff too. Like, I saw so many different clips of like Tiger yelling at Charlie to throw him a chicken tender.
Yeah.
And I'm like dying laughing. I'm like, it's never in my life would I think I would see Tiger Woods yelling at
Mhm.
Charlie to throw him a chicken tender as he's playing. You know what I mean? It's just those things that you're seeing and you're like,
Yeah,
they're just like us. They like chicken.
exactly. Oh, that's great.
I love it. We were talking about it. You just got done doing WrestleMania, F1, all these different things. Has there been one of these events for you that's had the most unexpected marketing challenge?
I do think Fanatics Fest the first year was one of those, really unique experiences just because it was a one Fanatics effort. I was helping the events team with influencer programming, putting the list together, and just other, challenges that we had kind of running through. It's the very first year of the event. So putting together gift bags of the merch coming late because we ran into delays, and then also just with tickets, kind of dealing with those types of issues, and then getting pulled into a different project.
Yeah.
It was called our Best Dressed Fan Series, something that Michael Rubin, had went live on Instagram. It was just like, every hour we're going to bring fans downstairs to meet their favorite athletes, if they're dressed like them, really trying to make it like the Comic Con style.
Yeah.
And so our main Fanatics Ultra team was like, hey, like, we're going to need your help on this. You're really close to your athlete relations team. You're in the back room constantly. So we're going to have you kind of be kind of like a producer, project manager. But then also I have my memorabilia booth. We're doing Under Wrapped, which is our mystery box program, that we had launched a new one out there at that time. And just, that sort of coverage. And then the photo ops, the public ones, there were so many different moving pieces. And I think those 3 days were absolutely packed, but they were, just so much fun getting to work with all the different athletes across all the different sports and be able to connect fans, and influencers with them, and just making sure these influencers who are coming and making content, really spreading the word about Fanatics Fest and creating that FOMO at the end of that weekend. That was one of the most like rewarding things that I ever had. And just also with, all those other experiences I've gotten, like the first ever Formula One Miami Grand Prix. We're going to the very last second trying to build this thing up. And no one really, I had never been to a race before. I just had no background in F1. Like, luckily, we had a really great PR agency called N Crush that just, taught us so much about, how everything goes during race week. And so seeing it actually come to life, and, when the lights went out for the very first time, like, that was a really unique experience. And just at the end of it, just feeling so accomplished. And we had, formerly it was called Let It Fly, they're now with Two Circles. They had been able to produce so much amazing content. And even just the restrictions that we had on the F1 side, they're like, no actual like race footage. Like, you couldn't show any of that. Like, it's all reserved for F1 rights, but just showing kind of like the fan experiences and just different ways to kind of show the experience of the race, and one, create that FOMO where people are like, have to come to this next year.
Yeah.
And just kind of, using those 3 days of like Fanatics Fest or F1 Miami,
Yeah.
be able to just take advantage of that time to really grow your followings. That was one of those, really unique challenges, and just something we didn't know what we're getting ourselves into. But at the end of it, just seeing how much growth and how much positive feedback everything had was so awesome to see.
Well, and also how much you're bringing people together and showing
Mhm.
that, and showing just on a, once again, like you said, that FOMO level. But for the people there, like, that's one of those that's unbelievable experiences that they're walking away from like, holy crap. It's different when you're working it, but when you're actually there as an attendee, it's different memories.
Yeah, I think last year going as a fan was so much fun, just being able to bring my friends and just
Yeah.
as even though I don't work for them anymore, just having so great relationships with the people that do work there, where they're just like, yes, come to the race. Like, we have all the tickets for you and your friends. It was really, cool experience. Then this year, I'm going both as a fan and then actually working some like with a brand that's doing a brand trip called Nowadays. They're doing something at the Palm Tree Club, and just our old director of marketing from F1 Miami, she did Paddock Club and then worked for F1 Academy and now
Okay.
has her own agency. She was like, I have an opportunity for you. So just everything kind of all coming together, just building that network over the years and just different freelance opportunities to be able to get has been super cool.
That's
So
fantastic. And I love that she's doing stuff with F1 Academy because I think that that's the next big thing too. And it's great that
mhm.
there's just female representation in F1. I think it's awesome.
It's been awesome. I mean, we had the W series when I was my first year, and just seeing we're able to kind of bring the local Miami Garden students and getting to
Yeah.
meet all the women's drivers. That was really awesome. And just having them being able to have access to the paddock and all of that sort of stuff, and people getting to see them race is just a really cool opportunity for them. And
That's fantastic.
teaming up with the actual F1 teams now has been super cool to see.
All right, I got a fun question. With your career so far, just like every athlete has their highlight reel, if we were to look at Peyton's highlight reel, what three moments would make the cut?
Oh gosh, that's so tough. So I had some really unique opportunities last year that were absolutely incredible. One, going to Stanley Cup Finals at the Panthers. That was just so much fun. I become a little bit of a bandwagon Panthers fan since I moved to South Florida. I mean, they're the Fort Lauderdale team. Fort
Gotcha.
Lauderdale, it's been
Yeah.
great. Their practice facility is walking distance from me. So
Yeah.
one, game to do that, and we showcased the game used ice. And then two, being able to be there for Shohei Ohtani's 50-50 game, that was absolutely incredible. Also, being in Miami, like the odds of that actually happening were crazy because we knew that he would probably hit 50 stolen bases, but he ended up hitting 3 home runs that day at the 50-50 game on that last day in Miami. And we were so worried because there's some stadiums that'll give us access to the game used dirt, some that wouldn't. And we were able to get that game used dirt from Miami. And so being able to be on the field after that game, I'm been a Dodgers fan my entire life. And so that was just a super cool thing to
So
see, being so up close. We captured the game used dirt. And then when we were able to kind of turn into game used keychains, and we put in some orders as surprise and delights. And then we sold crystal baseballs with the game used dirt, similar to the Stanley Cup game
yeah.
used ice. So that was a really cool, unique event. And then also just after the Dodgers won the World Series, we did all the signings with Otani, and then at spring training, Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez, just I love the Dodgers, so that was really cool, kind of putting it all together. The third one is just so tough because one, just getting to travel with Miami Dolphins, the 2022 season was so awesome. I mean, I, as a former student athlete, know what it's kind of like traveling, obviously, as an athlete, but professional level is just so different. Fans are, in the hotels, you get like all of the security, police escorts going to stadiums, the opposing team, they're just booing you at their tailgates when you're getting into the stadium. So all of those experiences is something like I will always, take with me forever. Getting to be at that Ravens comeback game, that was one of those really unique games. Just getting to see, the Bears Stadium, the Lions Stadium, just really unique places. I always take that, and then just all those other experiences at Hard Rock F1, Hard Rock, same with Miami Open, seeing Carlos Alcaraz win his first Masters 1000, just things like that. Those experiences able to get, and then Fanatics Fest, I think that was one of those absolute just crazy events. So I mean, all those events that I've gone to do at Fanatics have been awesome. We have Rookie Premiere coming up, which is one of my absolute favorite events. We see the top 40 rookies, getting to do signs with them, and then they'll be in their jerseys for the very first time. We have a little reveal party for them the night before.
It's
They
cool.
haven't performed. I don't know if we're performing this year, but it's just really cool to kind of see. I've always been a big football fan, and just having all the teams together. It's just my perspective on football is just and just sports in general has changed. I'm like, we love the Fanatics athletes, trying to support them because that obviously helps our business. So always become a Dolphins fan over the years, same with the Rams, but we cheer for certain athletes and whatever helps our business at the end of the day.
Love it. We've been talking about all this stuff and all these really incredible experiences that you've gotten to experience and have. But is there a misconception about working in sports marketing that you would love to debunk?
Oof. It's one of those things where, at least working in like the sports social media world, like I don't have a typical 9 to 5, and that is like very chill. There are days I'm in the office from 9 to 5, but it's one of those things where, I gotta be on call for certain things. So, for example, a couple weeks ago, I'm going to this music festival called Tortuga. It's the country festival. It's on the beach for Lauderdale, but I have to go late because Ovechkin's scoring the 895th goal, and I have to be able to cover it. And so it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like, I just got to stay behind. And there's things that you'll have to give up at times where it's like, I'm bringing my phone out to dinner with friends and stuff. It's like, I have to post this because, our athletes are going to the Super Bowl, and we have to be able to post about their memorabilia and just take advantage of that moment. And it's one of those things where it's just, I've just gone used to it over time. So it's those things where it's like you just have to plan ahead.
Yeah.
And so I would say like I'm very good about time management,
Yeah.
making sure I'm not, burning myself out. But it's one of those things where it's like, yes, we get to be with all these athletes and all that sort of stuff, but you're also on their schedule. So it's like when I'm at spring training, we have an idea of when we'll see them, but it's one of those things where you just have to be on call like all day, ready to go. And then when they are there, you're ready to be able to shoot and do all that stuff in the moment. So it's one of those things I have to stay flexible because you are basically running behind other people's schedules. But as much prep as you can do beforehand will always help you going into these types of events.
I love it. Peyton, I can't thank you enough for sitting down with me today. This was
This was so fun.
a true pleasure for me to be able to jump into your world and just hear about just some of the crazy stuff that you get to do. And one, give us a look in terms of my perspective, like you're the athlete to me and you're giving me that look in terms of what you are getting to do. And I so appreciate it. And let me hop into your world today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, everyone follow at Fanatics Authentic on Instagram and at Fans Authentic on Twitter. That's where you kind of see all the behind the scenes. We have, game used product that we showcase, a lot of really cool art memorabilia behind the scenes of these athletes at these signings, influencer collabs, and then just on general social at Payton Chang for behind the scenes stuff.
I love it. And you guys, I'm going to have that all linked down below so you can go follow all those accounts, keep up with Peyton. And as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much.